Oh, welcome. Thank you for joining me this evening. I look forward to serving you. I am Dr. Michelle Coleman. I am a marriage and family therapist and a counselor educator. I am also the parent of a birth child and three adopted children. And when I first adopted two sisters that I had in foster care, I'm looking for services, and there wasn't anyone out there who understood what I was living with and what I was going through. And so my journey took me down the rabbit hole of interpersonal neurobiology at a Dan Siegel's certification program, as well as other scientists who've done lots of research for working with children who have attachment trauma. So, what I bring to you, A, is from my journey parenting a child with attachment trauma, as well as what I've learned in my education and my experience teaching. So, I want to hear from you. We are looking for what topics are you interested in? What would you like to know more about? How can I serve you? And we're looking at doing this monthly, and it's going to be based on your availability as well as mine. And today I'd like to start with scanning for the positive and making it big. As you have questions, either about what I'm talking about now or about serving children with attachment trauma, either one, there will be time when I'm done to ask those questions. So, usually, parents focus on what the child isn't doing right. I know I was raised by my great aunt mom, and if I did something well, got good grades, made an achievement, I believe her thought was that was what I was supposed to do, so she didn't mention it. She might tell family members, but she didn't tell me. However, if I made a mistake, I heard about that. Not just that one time, but over and over again. For our children with abuse and neglect in their background, in their early childhood, the child always blames themselves for losing their family, for doing something wrong, for any pain that the family or the parents experience. So when we focus on what they didn't do and we say it over and over again, that is just reinforcing the shame that they're already feeling. The guilt, the pain, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough, I'm not worthy of love. So we have to do it differently. I can remember being a teenager, I was roughly about 15 years old, and I had gotten punished, which meant 6 weeks of grounding, for the same thing for like the third time in a row. And I walked into my room and I was like, what's wrong with me? Am I stupid? How come I can't learn this? And it was not until I started studying interpersonal neurobiology concepts and learning how the brain changes, was not until then did I learn the brain doesn't change with a focus on the negative. The brain changes with a focus on the positive. So I start there asking you to scan for those things your youth do. Could start small. Initially, they're not going to do big things because they're afraid, but they might do something small. And when you can scan for it, notice it, and then make it big. Oh, I love, Johnny, how you were able to take your dish and put it over in the sink. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you for showing me that you care about how we do dinner and finish up dinner. Thank you. That really means a lot to me. Not only are you giving your kiddo good chemicals, but you're getting good chemicals as well. It feels good to scan for the positive and highlight it. I want you to pay attention to that. That'll be your homework for between now and when I see you again. What does it feel like? What changes do you notice in your youth when you scan for the positive? Let me hear from you. So, what questions are coming up now? And if you want more reading, I'll put that in the chat. I recommend you read Rick Hanson's book, Hardwiring Happiness. And that's if you want more information on the power of scanning for the positive. And I have more data based on what Rick Hansen says, but I want to give you a chance to ask your questions. Do you all know how to raise your hand? Chastity, can you help us?
You can just put it in the chat if you have a question and we will answer. I thought maybe we could start off. What happens, Michelle, if I don't find anything positive about my kid?
Ah, nothing, huh? Okay. So, what issue are you focusing on? Because if you are looking at changing too many things at once, you're going to constantly be scanning for what they're not doing as opposed to scanning for what they are doing. So I'm sure your child being human on the planet, they're doing something well. Might not be what you want them to work on, but they're doing something well. Scan for that. Can you do that?
I can try.
Good. Thank you. Other questions? That was a good first question. What if your kiddo's not doing anything well? I can remember I was working with a teenager and his home, and I told the mom to say something positive when what he was working on he did. Might be coming home, doing his homework, putting his backpack away, something really simple. And the teenager spoke up. He said, Michelle, when I hear my mom's voice, I immediately shut it out. He said, so you told her to scan for what I'm doing well, but when she told me, I didn't hear it. And by the time I realized she said something positive, I was like, wait, what, huh? She stopped talking. So that's when I learned we can't just scan for it and notice it. We have to say it over and over and over again. Okay, so some people might ask me, it's hard for me to scan for the positive and make it big. So my daughter, my youngest, Kelsey, she's precious. She is 30 next week, Wednesday. I'm going to go spend her birthday with her by her request. And so she's in high school. She's not doing her homework. She's skipping class. So this is back when she was like 14, 15 years old. And I was like, okay, I have to scan for the positive. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Okay, so she gets one good grade on an exam, or if I check and see she went to one class that day, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about it. Oh, gosh, how am I going to talk about it? All right, so here I am. Never had it done for me. So I don't have the neurology for it. I don't have the brain cells for it. So I've got to figure it out. So what I came up with was when she didn't go to class and I got notification of it, or she didn't do her homework, or she failed a test or a quiz or whatever, and the teachers let me know that, I could go on for days about that. So what I decided was, as I start to scan for the positive and make it big, anything I would have said in the negative, I will switch it around. Okay, so this is what it looked like. Wow, thank you so much. I got notice today that you went to your English class. Woohoo, that is awesome. Thank you so much for making the choice to go to class. I really appreciate that. That shows me that you're making schoolwork important. You're valuing what you're learning there. You're turning in your assignments. This is so good. I am so proud of you. Thank you so much for making school important. And of course, first time I did it, she looked at me like I was crazy. But when we're focusing on the negative, don't we repeat ourselves? We say the same thing 2, 3 times. You have my permission to do the same when you're focusing on the positive. Go ahead, repeat yourself. The chemicals that our children get, maybe not initially, but eventually will feel good. Because initially, they're like, what's going on? Why is she saying something positive to me? What just happened? But if you keep doing it, you're building their capacity to hear the positive. And now you're giving them good chemicals, good for their health, their immune system, their well being, their brain coming online to learn, and it's good for your system as well. Other questions?
I know a lot of our parents have asked, and I experienced it as a parent, that when I would be positive with my kid, they would act even worse.
Yes, nice, good question. Oh, and here's a question. All right, so I'm going to start with the question. Even when we say something positive to our kiddo, they get worse. And then I see a question in the chat. My child still acts out even if I am positive. So I'll address that one second. So I was in residential treatment doing a group exercise, and it's kinesiology where we're strong when we hear the positive and we're weak when we hear the negative. And so I had a student come up and I would show the rest of the group whether or not they were going to say positive words, have positive thoughts towards this person, or negative thoughts. And with this group of youth in residential treatment with attachment trauma, every time the crowd would think negative thoughts, the youth would get strong. And when they thought positive thoughts, the youth got weak. I was like, wait, it's not supposed to work this way. With those of us who don't have attachment trauma, who've healed our attachment trauma, we're strong when people think positively towards us, and we're weak when people think negatively. So I said something out loud. I was like, wait, I don't understand. One sweet 12-year-old raised her hand. She said, Michelle, we're used to hearing the negative. We know how to hear the negative. When someone says something positive, we wonder, what's up? What do you want? What's about to happen to me now? So, what you might have to do if you have a youth like that is prepare them. I know this might be hard for you to believe, or you could say, I know this might be hard for you to hear, and then deliver the positive. Now, if you have a youth that goes negative or has trouble hearing the positive, I'm going to tell you something just the opposite of what I just said. Give it to them in small bites because they can't take it in. If you feel that they can hear you, then you're going to make it big. But you can build that neurology to notice nothing bad happened. We're still in relationship. You did something well, and I'm proud of you. So that now their system can learn how to take in and feel those positive chemicals. So try that. Notice what happens. Pay attention to your body. Your body's going to give you feedback. So then my child still acts out even if I am positive. So you're going to notice if it happens, if the acting out happens right after you say something positive. So I'm thinking about an experience in the classroom. So Dr. Morris would always scan for what his students were doing well. And he taught in the inner city, first grade. And one day there was a young man who would not do his homework, would not. And this particular day, he did 2 math problems. And he came up, bundled them up and crumpled them and threw them on the teacher's desk, threw them on Dr. Morris's desk. And Dr. Morris opened the paper and saw that 2 math problems were done. He was like, whoa, good for you. You did homework. I like it. And as the student is going back to his seat, he hits a classmate across the head. His hearing the positive was not something he was used to. Okay? You deliver it anyway. Our youth will build the neurology for being able to hear the negative. So if they act out afterwards, just say, oh, I see, that was hard for you to hear. That's okay. Don't give the negative any power. You stay the course. You are the change agent. You are the one who can bring on new neurology in relationship with your youth. Other questions? Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Hopefully that helped. If that didn't, try it out and then let me know. Oh, that's a good question. So Susan asked, how will my child change if I am not focusing on what needs to be changed? Yeah. So I go back to my example, to my personal experience when I'm doing the same thing wrong over and over again, because that's what my great aunt mom focused on, right? So if you're focusing on what is wrong and giving it lots of attention, you are building more neurology for what you don't want. So you can sit down with your kiddo and say, this is what we're going to work on. This is what I want to notice. This is what you tell me what you need. How do I support you? So you can set them up for success and you can tell them that you're going to watch for it. So when I was working with my youngest daughter, Kelsey, to get her to do well in school, I just wanted her to graduate high school. That was all. She didn't have to be valedictorian. I wasn't attached to the grade point average. I was just hoping she'd pass high school. So I tell her, I want you to start focusing on doing better in school. And I'm going to scan for when I see you doing that. So that's how I bring attention to what it is I want to change. And then I'm not focusing on when she ditches and when she doesn't do her homework. That's just going to make more of that happen. I'm going to focus on when she does go to that one class, when she chooses to show up in class instead of hanging outside with her friends. And then what can I do to support her making the positive choices? One thing we did is we got her involved in extracurricular activities. I just love in high school where in order to do football or do cross country running, you have to be passing your classes. So that's the school working with us to bring about positive change. That's how you do it. And for now, you start with one issue, not everything all at once. We bring on the neurological networks one connection at a time. And you ignore everything else until you have progress in that one issue you want to focus on healing. Thank you. Good questions. Chastity, or anyone else?
How do we get people around us or educators to be positive?
So 2 questions, one from Susan, one from Chastity. Chastity asked, how do we get educators to be positive about our youth? And if I can, could I do a whole segment on that? Okay, so I will hold on that question because that is challenging, and I don't want to be surface with that answer. Thank you, Susan, for being honest. What if I don't feel positive about my child? This is when you need a support system because our children can be abusive. And it's not because they are abusive people, it's because they are simply expressing the pain that they have experienced. And when we understand that, then we know that's not the truth of who they are. And then we work hard to help bring out the truth, their gentle nature, their sensitivity, their caring. We look for those things. Maybe they do it with a pet, maybe they do it with their peers, maybe they do it with other people and not with us. So we look for how we can find something to connect with in our child. So the last youth I adopted was an African American Mexican male, and he was 11 when we adopted him. And he had been through several homes, had a failed adoption, and he would trigger my core wounding. So much so I'd have to breathe, I'd have to take breaks. And it was hard for me to scan for the positive because my body was being beaten up. So what I did was scan for how he showed up with his friends. He was amazing with younger children. So loving, so sensitive. And I was like, I think that's the truth of who he is. And so I looked for ways to pull that out. We started playing jacks in the backyard together, or we play other games together, video games together. So I looked for that sensitive part in him. And as I connected with that part, then his defense with me started to relax. And we could have positive moments to the point where he could ask for mommy time. And even at 16 years old, be able to curl up in my lap on the couch and just not watch TV or anything, just be. And yes, it was the body of a 16-year-old teenage boy, but really it was the 2-year-old who didn't get that when he was with his birth mom. So a lot of times what we experience is the pain and not the truth of our youth. So I invite you, Susan, to scan for what is the truth about your youth? What can you find to positively connect with them? And how can you bring that out in them? Thank you. So I think our time is just about up. And what I'm going to ask is Chastity is going to come on and tell you how to reach out to us. What would you like to hear about? I already have one topic, and we'll address that next time. And that is helping the school be positive about our youth. How do we work with our educators? If there are other issues, if you are the parent or the caregiver for a child with abuse and neglect in their background, and you'd like to hear my perspective or hear my input or what other parents have learned, Chastity is going to tell you how to reach out to us so I can address those issues. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great week. Chastity.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. All right, guys, thanks for joining. If you would like to get in contact with us or know more, please go to Dr. Coleman's Instagram account at Dr. Michelle Coleman. You can also reach out to us at info@nrguide and request to be on our newsletter. We update that regularly, and we also will post when we're doing lives and different events that we have, as well as parent group information. Thank you guys for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you. Take care.